Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome to Fountain Street Church. My name is Reverend Christopher Rowe, and I have the privilege and the honor of serving in this season as the acting senior minister here in what I call this temple of peace and this cathedral of love. And on behalf of everyone who calls this their spiritual home, welcome to this hour of worship with one another. I was just trying to count in my head during the beautiful prelude, and I think this is our 7th service back in the sanctuary this year after that long hiatus. And I'm particularly excited, because we have a wonderful and exciting guest today. Dr. Jelks is with us, Dr. Randall Jelks, and I am so honored he is with us. And it also kicks off a season of having many guests that will join our pulpit and join our worship with us. And so after 7 wonderful weeks of being together, it is exciting and good to have some new voices coming in here and also joining us. And so I am so grateful for you being the inaugural voice in that journey. This is a place where everyone is not only invited, but welcome, no matter who you are, no matter where you are on the journey of life. Whether you are a local or you are watching on YouTube at home here in West Michigan, or you are watching from across the country or even the world sometimes, no matter who you believe in or who you don't believe in at all, or who you love or who you're loved by, what you look like, or the status of your existence, you have a place in this community where love and justice and compassion and equity and inclusion are the shared work of our liberating faith, not only inside this place, but also beyond these walls. So on behalf of everyone who shares in this work together, welcome to our worship service. In addition to Dr. Jelks, I'm so happy to have Caron Farmer with us again at the organ this morning, and our choir, who I almost called them the chancel choir, but they're actually the balcony choir today. Many of you may not realize it, but they will be singing a few beautiful pieces from behind in an antiphonal setting. And so thank you, choir, for also being here this morning. As we prepare ourselves for this time of worship with one another, I invite you to get comfortable and remember that you have nowhere else to be but here in this moment. And hear the words of our call to worship, who is offered to us from Mary Oliver. I invite you to find your center, open your spirit and your soul, and hear the words as they touch our hearts. If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give into it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not very often kind, and much can never be redeemed, but still, life has so much possibility left. Perhaps this is life's way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all of the riches or the power in the world. It could be anything. But very likely, you'll notice that in an instant, it is where love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb. Welcome to Fountain Street Church and welcome to worship.
Calling out to hungry hearts. morning. My name is George Zulderveen, and I'll be reading this morning's Ancient and Contemporary Witnesses. This morning's ancient witness comes to us from the Christian text of Matthew, chapter 17, verses 1 to 8. Hear what the ancient spirit is saying to the people this morning. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it's good for us to be here. If you wish, I will make 3 dwellings here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud a voice said, "This is my son, the beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, "Get up and do not be afraid." And when they looked up, they saw no one except Jesus himself alone. This morning's contemporary witness comes to us from the contemporary theologian Henry Nouwen. Hear what the contemporary spirit is saying to the people this morning. God is a God of the present. God is always in the moment, be that moment hard or easy, joyful and pain.
Thank you once again, and good morning to you. I know many of you behind masks, but you can say good morning. I am a Southerner by birth and by temperament, and so it's very appropriate to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It makes your life a little bit better. You know, just walking down the street saying good morning to someone. We don't do those courtesies any longer, and it's very important for us to do it. I was very pleased when I got a call and said, "Well, Randall Jelks, would you come and preach at Fountain Street Church?" I was like, "Whoa, I'm honored. I'd be happy to. It's always a joy to be here with you. This grand historic church. I was just admiring in the green room all of the great photographs of people who have come over the years here. So it's really great to be here with you, and I thank you for this invitation to be in this illustrious pulpit and to share a little with you of what I have to say this morning. We all need to get away. It's not like that Southwest commercial, right? You want to get away? But we all need to get away. Everyone needs to escape the dysfunction of family or the idea that we have to work incessantly or the culture of noisiness that seems to run over the United States. There isn't a quiet space everywhere. Airports, train stations, everywhere seems to be noisy. Matthew describes an exhausted Jesus, because if you read the chapter before of that ancient, who needed to be renewed. Life was, even in the ancient world, unceasing sometimes. The passage reminds us that we all need a lonely place, a retreat, a space to heal from our mistakes and our wounds. In the end, all of us need a lonely place, a beach, a cabin, a lake, a mountain, renewal and self-renewal. We all need to go fishing. We all need to just stand there and look at the water to heal. Yes, even Jesus needed a bit of self-care Matthew tells us. As the Gospel of Matthew describes him, he's a Galilean from a notable family, of notable paternal legacy, that he had quickly become a religious rock star. Now, in the ancient world, don't misunderstand me, there were other emerging religious rock stars, particularly in ancient Israel, surrounding and competing with Jesus. There were all kinds of rock stars. But the people took notice and raced toward this carpenter's son because he preached to the poor good news. It is claimed by Matthew, is the most revolutionary and the most innovative in the prophetic tradition of his people. And the people can't get enough of him. Folks, as he made his pilgrimage toward Jerusalem, are clamoring for him to teach, preach, and heal, constantly clamoring from, come on, we need you more. We need you to feed the 5,000. We need you to do this. We need you to do that. And he's tired. They want more of him, like our employers or our careers demand more of us. More, we need more of you. We need more of you. I work in a university, and they always, it's like, oh, you can do more. I'm like, we're doing a lot. They want more miracles. They want more challenges to an inequitable social order. They want more conversations with him about the God whose name should never be pronounced, what it has in store for the overwhelming majority who are living in King Herod's colonized dominion. They want more. That majority cannot pay rent for housing. That majority cannot find sufficient health care. That majority are not making enough income off of agriculture and trade. That majority is angry at the social changes that they seemingly have no control over, and they turn on one another and blame the immigrant, the poor, and the refugee for perilous times that they live in. So Matthew suggests that Jesus just simply needs a break. He's tired, weary. And we all feel that in this time of COVID. All of us feel that weariness, that tired, that we just need to get away. We just need to get somewhere and sit quietly. And that was even before COVID. Because we live in a society that tells us we can do more and more and more. And we take that to heart. We try to do more and more and more. So Jesus is just, if this ancient was tired, he shares your tiredness with you. Tired, weary, and simply needs a break. Needs a break. And Jesus, Matthew suggests also, stands in the line of 8th century prophets. And so he is not the first or the last one of the servants to be overwhelmed by the demands of his job of caring and loving the disenfranchised, the forgotten, and the troubled. It's not the first. In the Hebrew scriptures, it tells us that Elijah in 1 Kings 19, that this prophet was so exhausted of the constancy of battle for justice that he literally wished to die under a broom tree. Sometimes our weariness makes us want to die. Even the prophets, the biblical text suggests, get the blues. Like the great poet Langston Hughes, who once stood in the sanctuary and read this poem called The Weary Blues. Hughes' poem goes like this: droning a drowsy, syncopated tune, rocking forth, back and forth to a mellow croon. I heard a Negro play down on Lenox Avenue the other night by the pale, dull pallor of an old gaslight. He did a lazy sway. He did a lazy sway to this tune, those weary blues. With his ebony hands on each ivory key, he made that piano moan with melody. Oh, blues! Swaying to and fro on his rickety stool, he played that sad, raggedy tune like a musical fool. Sweet blues. Swaying to and fro, coming from a black man's soul. Oh, blues. In a deep song voice with a melancholy tone, I heard that Negro sing that old piano moan. Ain't got nobody in all this world, ain't got nobody but myself. I's gonna quit my frowning and put my troubles on the shelf. Thump, thump, went his foot on the floor. He played a few chords and then he sang some more. I got the weary blues and I can't be satisfied. I got the weary blues and I can't be satisfied. I ain't happy no more. And wish I had died. And far into the night he crooned that tune. The stars went out and so did the moon. The singer stopped playing and went to bed while the weary blues echoed through his head. He slept like a rock or a man that's dead. Hughes got what Elijah was saying. He got the weary blues. And our whole society has the blues right now. Our whole society. And so we need a place to rest. We need to stop. We need to take in. And so they go up to the mountain. And there, in an odd kind of turn of phrase, an odd turn of passage, suddenly there is this transfiguration. Suddenly there's Moses, another guy who's experienced the blues. Now, if you got to lead people out of exile, if you got to lead them out of slavery, and you know how church folks are, our religious folks are, they're just as messy, they're just as contentious, they're just as harebrained. So imagine Moses leading them out, so he got the blues. I once saw a cartoon years and years ago. The Red Sea has parted. Moses is leading in the front, and there's a guy way in the back as they're escaping the charging Egyptian soldiers, and the guy in the back says, "It's wet down here." You know he had the blues. You know he had the blues. He had to get away. So Moses goes up to the mountain and communes with God. And when he comes back, as the Torah says, all hell has broken out. We all have to get away. And Jesus stands in line with him and Elijah, the same guy who wants to die under the broom tree. Weariness. But that time away is refreshing. But for the disciples, what they see is that this is a great moment. What they see is this is a spiritual experience. What they see is this is our past history. This is our glory. And what they see is that we need to create a monument to this moment. Just like we do with the church. As rich as the experience is, as rich as the history of this church is, it's the past. It's gone. And it's now to build a new future. That moment to escape is to help us reflect about what do we face now? What are we charged with now? Not our great past. That's there. But what do we face now? How do we become relevant now? How do we open our minds and imaginations to now? And eventually they have to go down the hill. They go down the mountain. And you know what they face is they face all the homeless people right on Division Street. They face people with mental illness. The first thing Matthew does is that they leave the mountain and they find what they call a demoniac boy casting about, facing the now. Our time to get away is always needed. Our time to get away is always important. Our time to get away is always renewal, but it is always renewal to face the now. All of us will have to rethink how we become the church. All of us will have to rethink how we are community. All of us will have to rethink all the things that we assumed. All of us will have to rethink how we do economics in a society so that we do not grow more unequal. But sometimes you need a break. You need to sit quiet. You need to laugh with friends. To renew yourself, to go back down that mountain. You read the entirety of that ancient passage in Matthew 17, they have to go back down that mountain. They have to go face the challenges, just like you have to face the challenges. This is not the church it once was. It will not be that. But it can become something new. And that's the challenge. How do we face this together? How do we face it with all our contentiousness and differences? All our different histories? How do we face? Sometimes we just need to savor the moment, have some quiet, so that we can think about the next step. May the God of Abraham and Sarah, may the God of Son born of Mary, all be with you in the hearing of this word. Amen.
You have nowhere to be but here right now. You are exactly where you need to be, and that is particularly underscored this morning. You are exactly where you need to be, and you are where the world needs you to be. So free yourself. Find yourself. Feel the presence of everyone around you, everyone within you. Feel the chair that holds you. Feel the ground beneath supports you. Feel the ancient womb of life that embraces. And breathe. Fill up your lungs and your spirit. Breathe in the welcome of the ancestors who have rested in this very space before us. Feel the energy of the room wash over yourself. Feel it glide over the parts of you that still hold pain. Let it move to the places and spaces within yourself that you have forgotten to love. Open yourself to silence, to restful and restorative silence. Welcome it in. Spirit that even time cannot contain. We know we have been called into the space of transformation, metamorphosis, and transfiguration. We have been called to the mountaintop. We have been called to the lake, into the woods, to the quiet place in our homes, in our churches, and within ourselves. We have been called. This sacred and holy and mysterious place this morning. Inspire within us the courage and the bravery to rest. Give us the strength to renew. Give us the will. Spirit of the generations, we ask you this morning to lift up and hold and embrace the parts of ourselves we are too scared to speak aloud this morning or put words to or share beyond the inside of our being. We ask that our neighbor and those among and around us feel that as well. As we commit ourselves and our community and our worlds to savoring so that we can act and put ourselves at the intersection of contemplation and action, we ask that love and justice, inclusion, equity and belonging and compassion be our guide and our focus. All of these things and the things left unspoken, we bring time with one another. As we breathe one more time, let us close this year. I invite you to breathe. Amen. Blessed be. Thank you, choir. We've got a few announcements before we depart this morning. The first of which is just a reminder that we are still deep into the weeds of this augmented way of being the church. It's still very much a virtual and hybrid ministry we are offering here at Fountain Street Church. And it also means that some of those vestiges we love so much of the past are still not quite restored the way we might like. The two big ones I'm thinking of this morning are the offering and the order of worship, and I want to bring an update on both of those. The offering will continue to be done in the narthex during this period. We want to minimize having to pass the plate or having you kind of crawl across the seats and get in each other's social zones. And so we are going to continue to do the offering in the back. The ushers will always have a plate for you. And as a gentle reminder, 50% of that stays directly in here to support the internal ministries, and 50% goes beyond these walls directly into the organizations that we work with and serve and join efforts with in our community. And so that'll continue to be that way for a while. Another issue that I know, issue sounds ominous, another area that I know many of you are interested in hearing more about is our order of worship, and that is a similar thing that we've been trying to figure out with not having the ushers have to pass things out and get all close with everyone. And so what we will try to do in this interim period is offer an order of service that will be available on the church website every week. It will be virtual, and if we really get our acts together, we might even be able to send it out in the Friday Flash, which I think would be appreciated. And so that'll be able to include all of the participants, and one person's excited. That'll include participants and the order and all of that valuable and beautiful information that I know many of you would like to know and we would like to share. So thank you for your grace and your patience as we kind of figure that piece out, and we'll continue to evolve and grow from there. All right. Next week, we have a big Sunday. It is Halloween Sunday. It is also Stewardship Sunday, and it's really just a celebration of Fountain Street Church and our history and our future. We are extremely excited about this. I think the most important thing that I want to share is don't forget to costume up or wear something festive. I don't know what I'll be, but I'll be something. I know that many people have great ideas planned, so please come in costume to celebrate or just wear something festive that makes you feel joyful. We want it to be a joyful service. And immediately following it, we'll have a Halloween social, and that will be taking place in a couple spots, but one of them is going to be the back of our church parking lot. And so we're hoping to take a few of the spaces in the back and actually use that for some intergenerational activities after worship. And so we want everybody who needs that parking to still have access to it. So if you feel like you might be able to park on the street instead of parking in the lot, some of you, then that would be helpful. And if you typically park on the street, but you might be able to park a block away, that would be helpful too. So we're just going to kind of jostle a little bit so we can still do a social activity as a congregation, but outside where it's a little bit safer. Immediately following those activities, we will be having a special ritual and gathering that will happen in the GRCC Park directly out these doors across the street. And there's more information available through the Friday Flash and something that'll go out this week. But that'll be just a wonderful intergenerational time for people to honor the changing of the seasons and light and dark and life and death. And it'll be interactive in all ages and a nice digestible length of time. So those are some really wonderful things happening next week that I just want to make sure you know you are fully welcome and included. And I will say, apropos to Dr. Jelk's message this morning, Halloween there's more gravitas to it than just we like to party here, which is not untrue. Halloween was a space in West Michigan that wasn't always embraced or welcomed by everyone in a more conservative culture and theological perspective. And Fountain Street was a place where children and families could don a costume and come and celebrate. And so as we think about those mountaintop reflections and moments of rest, that's the exact invitation we're talking about. What does it mean today? I mean, Halloween's much more accepted, obviously, in our community, and thank God. But what are those other spaces and places that Fountain Street is being called to be that kind of safe and inclusive environment for our world? So I really appreciate you setting us up for what should be a beautiful and wonderful and celebratory weekend next week. I think that's enough. On behalf of everyone who calls this their spiritual home, on behalf of everybody who might just be visiting for the first time, our prayer for you as you go forward this week is to go forward with courage, with bravery, and with strength. All of those things and each of those things so that you might find your moment of rest, so that you might find your moment to savor, so that you might be able to truly free your mind, so that you might be able to truly grow your soul, so that we all might truly be able to change the world together. Thank you, Dr. Jelks. Thank you, Caron. Thank you, choir, and thank all of you for being here. Go in peace and make peace, my friends. Have a wonderful week. We'll just go out to the narthex.